My name's Jamie Wheelis. I'm the director for the short. Uh, just want to quickly tell you a little bit about myself. My career really began when I was 10 years old and I read comic books. I love Marvel comic books. I used to draw Spider Man and Hulk and Avengers and all that, and really just lost myself in those worlds. They inspired me. The characters always just got into my veins. I just loved reading about them, trying to emulate them and bring them to life. So that kind of took me into my career where I worked at ILM as a character animator for 12 years and just had the great opportunity to work with amazing artists, including collaborating with the likes of George Lucas and Ang Lee. Just was a thrill to learn from them and grow. Currently I'm running a studio called Ignite Animation. We're out of Northern California, and we're mostly a remote studio where I work with animators around the world. And for this particular project, Ignite did all the character animation, most of the development work, and then we partnered with our good friends Crater Studio in Serbia, and they did the beautiful lighting and the fur that you see in the short film. Right now, I'd like Peter to introduce himself and tell a little bit more about the process.
Hi everyone, I'm Peter Jovic. I'm the founder of the Creator Studio. We were established 15 years ago, and mostly we are doing visual effects. My career, when I was watching ILM work on the Star Wars Episode 4, Empire Strikes Back, I was 8. I realized that I want to work some visual effects. For me, that was so amazing, making the new worlds, fantasies, run away from this reality in some imagined universe. For me, that was a call to become a visual effect artist. So Creator did on this project everything from after animation, the look development, lighting, grooming, for dynamics and compositing. That was our responsibility on this project, and together with Ignite, who did the animation, character design, modeling of the characters. We did a really amazing job, and we finished this short movie, which is really touchy story about journey of the hero, our Andy, dog who becomes a self-confident dog at the end of the story.
Great. Thanks, Peter. All right. So let's for the next 20 minutes or so, we're going to take you through our process of creating this short film. Andy, I want to take you all the way back to how we began. Now, we had this opportunity to work on a story about a puppy named Andy. And I'll tell you the genesis of that. Basically, it was an idea that Jeannie Schultz had. Jeannie Schultz is the wife of Charles Schultz, who created Peanuts. Jeannie called me out of the blue and wanted to sit down and talk about this story about a puppy that has to overcome obstacles and become a service dog. So she introduced me to a organization called Canine Companions. Canine Companions raise puppies. They breed them, raise them, and then train them to take care of people in need. And the story was already there. I mean, it's amazing what these dogs do, and the how incredibly brilliant they are, and how they're trained to take care of people with different disabilities. And so really, I started digging in a little bit about what their organization was about, what kind of stories were out there. And one of the stories that really clicked for me was a girl named Olivia. Olivia was 10 years old, disabled. She received her first dog at 10. She's now 25 years old. She's been through 3 different puppies and dogs that have been her best friends, and she had quite a story. I took pages of notes talking to her over the phone and realized this could be the beginning of our story, which is really simple. It is the hero's journey, and it is pretty much the human condition. It's overcoming adversities and fears and really finding your purpose in life. So that was kind of the beginning of it. And we I worked with a writer, John Kelly, and we did a beat sheet. So you're coming up with different ideas, right? So you've got a 7-minute story you're going to pull together, and much like the hero's journey, you have it's a 3-act play where you've got an introduction, a tragedy, and then a resolution in simple terms. So we kind of broke that down into a script, wrote a 6 or 7 page script. Originally, the story was narrated by a woman's voice, and over time we kept working the boards and the story reel, and we realized we could possibly tell this story with just music. So in other words, no narration, just let the visuals stand on their own and let the music carry it, especially the emotional beats. And that's the other things that we really wanted, a story that had heart. It really grabbed your heartstrings and really had you lean in and understand the character. And so going into the story reel process, this is where it really became exciting. We worked on this reel for probably 6 months because we kept adding to it, subtracting, and adding more to it. and in any great film, whether it's a feature film or a short film, you have as a director, you're looking for the powerful moments, right? You're always looking for those moments that pivot the story or the character into a place where they didn't realize they were going to go. And so this is just a few of the boards here I wanted to share in our original story reel with our temp music, how powerful the drawings were already working for us. Let me just share that with you. So this is a moment where Andy, our puppy, meets, as you just seen in the story in this short film, Andy meets Olivia for the first time. This was our original drawings and our original concept of how we revealed Olivia to Andy. So as you can see, the story reel was pretty, it held up pretty solid, even to the final renders, as you just seen. This changed quite a bit, but the biggest thing that changed was we originally had them separate from each other and go to separate rooms, and then they came back, and it just was too complicated. So we simplified it, had it happen at the moment within like seconds, right? So what we're trying to convey at this moment, this is what you call the all is lost moment, where our hero, you think as an audience, you really feel we've built it up to a point where you feel like he's really lost again and he's not going to make it back. And that's in every great film, as we all know, from Star Wars to Rocky to Rudy. But this was a film about a puppy who had to really get over his fear to live a great life with Olivia. So that was the pivotal moment. And it's funny, originally we thought the pivotal moment was actually in the trophy room where he realized what he wanted to be the rest of his life. But this turned out really well. Very happy with it, and hopefully you were too. As any great film, just again, I'll wrap this up here in terms of the visual part. But the opening shot is a key component for any great storyteller. You really want to establish who the story is about and what that environment is. And so this moment, we had a bunch of other openers, but this was a simple moment of Andy sleeping with the title Andy across his head, if you remember in the short, where it says, "This is Andy. This is what the story is about. This is who it is about." So this was a beautiful moment being with Mom. And on the ending shot also is a symbolic reflection on his growth and transformation. And that, if you remember in the ending shot, it's actually his head over the shoulder of Livia, his new family, his new best friend. So it's a nice contrast. And the other thing is this begins in the morning, and the final shot is the sunset evening. So visual development. This was a big key component, obviously. As we worked through the story reel, we worked through different designs of our characters and our environments. Just a quick snapshot. We had many characters in this. Really, the main heroes were Olivia and Jill, the mom who raised Andy, and then Jack, the trainer. So you can see our references for each of these characters. As with the dogs, the characters, I mean, we had over 21 models of dogs in this film. Excuse me. And so the design process of that, we went through many iterations to come up with our hero character and the design of the actual puppy. Obviously, always starting with good reference of labs, and we really wanted this guy to be cute and charming and happy. Here he looks a little sad, but this is our character development from a 10-week-old study to just the model and what that structure looks like in terms of just, the size of his head and his ears and nose and his overall body. Our first model that we had done for this turntable for little Andy. And then our first model of Olivia in her wheelchair. And then comes the big, challenge of rigging the character, especially a dog. We rigged 3 different versions of Andy, a 10-week-old, and I think a 20-week-old, and then a 18-month-old. So we went through different iterations of this, trying to make sure the structures stayed together and all the volume played well as he moved in different, just different ways. The environment concepts. This was just quick. We did some shots of indoor environments were just beautifully rendered by Matt Gazer. We had some nice looks that, where the main scenes took place, the living room, the kitchen. Obviously outside when Andy first took his walk outside, this was a nice concept of the little town. And then into the model phase and the lighting that Peter will talk about. This is one last thing. Peter, I'll let you kind of run with this for a minute. This is our color scripts that we had produced in the development phase. And this was crucial because it really sets the tone of the film. Even though, again, it's only a short film, but it still has to have the heartbeat of really bringing us into the story. So in the beginning, if you notice up top, the whole left side, it's all morning, beautiful sunlight. Then into the trophy room, it gets a little bit more moody. And then when he has his tail run over, it's really turns a bit blue, a bit sad. And then he goes to training camp, lifts up, and has that one last double hit of the all is lost moment with Olivia. And then we end on a beautiful sunset with hope of a future of them together. Peter, would you like to say anything on this as we keep moving?
Well, yes, these mood boards really helped us to light the whole movie properly and to have this consistency of artistic feel of the movie, and those concepts are beautiful. I mean, they were really helpful for us to get the feeling of what Jamie and the creatives wanted from our team.
And that leads us into the animation production end of it, which Peter, you can carry on here as well. We went into as you say, everything begins in Maya.
Yeah, well, this is true only for the starting of the 3D. So
Yes.
For us, the Maya is the software where, like a hub, where we bring all together from the various different software programs. We are merging that in Maya to be rendered with the Arnold render, and that's our creator, let's say, workflow. And what we got from Jamie first, except in addition of the concepts and all the artwork, was the models and the rigged models, also the animation that came from Ignite Studio to Toward Creator, and that was the, let's say, the most important bridge between our studios, and we found that this is the best way to divide the work. It's like a set building of the characters and the animation on Jamie's side, and texturing, look development, shading, fur combing, and environments on the creator side. Plus a lot of dynamics, especially for the necklace, working with the fur. That was some kind of challenging thing, because it's easy to put the dynamic on the necklace for on the 3D model, but to interact with all these hairs, the fur, it's quite different and much more complex task. So we use the shotgun now shot grid as a tool for review. So it was easy for the creatives to give a comments. This is like a quick review tool where everyone can grab the player and go through the frames, write the comments on each frame, draw something on the image, and that's the standard for reviews for dailies these days. But we are using the shot grid, which is also Autodesk software, and it's very reliable, and we really rely on shot grid a lot as a studio for the pipeline, for the production tracking, and even for the setting the environment for the Maya and other software when we open the various programs we are doing through the shotgun interface. Final shots review in RV is the similar as what we saw in the previous quick review shotgun on web-based page, but in RV you can really watch the final quality image and give this in a similar way comments and send them to shotgun, so everyone can see what is commented on a dailies. It goes online. All the images on which one is drawing something or write some comments, it goes online on the as like the view. It's like a comment for everyone.
Yeah.
Who is involved in building that shot.
How about fur?
Well, fur is we were experimenting with the Unreal a bit to try to do to use the Unreal, but I think it's too early for this kind of I think even today it's good for some kind of hairstyle for humans, and there is a very advanced features in Unreal, but for this kind of cute blonde white hair, we choose Arnold because he is really the best renderer on market for a shading.
Yeah.
We rendered these puppies in Htoa in Houdini because we did the grooming in Houdini, but we used the Arnold renderer in Houdini, which is also very good, very well implemented in the Houdini software.
In terms of lighting, Peter, though, that was all Unreal. Is that correct?
No. The lighting for the environment was in Unreal. We were matching the mood boards mostly, and in addition, we tweaked lights together with Jamie and the concept artist and our art director from Ignite site. But for the dogs, everything it's let's say Arnold renderer, and the light it's beautiful on the fur, and that's the reason why we like so much Arnold, because it gets that nice rim light. The light penetrates in the hair, so there is no dark shadows. You can really feel this bouncing of the light inside the hair and fur. It's amazing. Yeah. But yes, all environments are rendered in Unreal, and it was great working in this ACES color space system, because when you render something in Unreal and you render something in Arnold, you can really put over in compositing software. We use the Nuke, and it matches. So we didn't spend too much time to match the background and the characters. We rendered one frame in Unreal as like HDRI, the environment lights, which we used in Arnold for the basic light for the characters. So this is more about Shotgun, how is important for the production, for the coordinators, because when you work on some project which has like hundreds of shots, it's impossible to have that all in your head. You need to have some tracking software where you can check the status of each asset or shot. So this is a presentation how this in ShotGrid looks. There is a bunch of props, assets, environments where the production supervisor and coordination are tracking the stages in which these tasks are currently, and also artists can also see his tasks and follow what is priority, or if he is waiting for review, or something that's postponed, or when is the date when he needs to start on this asset. It's almost not possible to do this kind of project, which is not a feature animation movie, but even short movie of. It has like hundreds or more shots. So without this management in ShotGrid, which is also Autodesk tool, it wouldn't be possible for us to finish everything and track everything. It would be just a chaos.
Yeah, of course.
So it's not a so creative thing comparing what at the beginning people do, but at the end, you are much more about the production. So everyone knows what needs to be creatively done, but now we need to execute, and the execution is it's starting to be more important than changing idea in the last minute. So
Yeah, and I'd say, Peter, we've been fortunate to work together for many years on, and also another short film, The Pig on the Hill. But
exactly.
this was over 134 shots, and it was completely remote. And the shot, the file structure and the asset management, everything we did was, we knew how to do it. We've done it before, and it worked seamlessly. At least on my side, I thought.
Yes, even for Jamie, it's important to see the progress of. So he doesn't need. He don't need to go to ask someone. He can go on the ShotGrid site page and see the progress of each shot, or how the look development is coming along with for some character. We had a really cool haircut for Olivia. We spent so much time. We really crossed the deadline for that one, but it was a really big challenge for us to make this curly hair. And I personally, I'm very proud on what we achieved with her hair.
Yeah, me too, man. Peter's, it was beautiful. It was when you first saw the concepts, you were like, oh wow, that's different. But
Yeah,
but that's what we wanted. We wanted Olivia to be a little different and not your standard, plain hair person. So yeah, so going off that, we have with that, Peter, I'd say the foundation for us, obviously, for our pipelines, Autodesk, using Unreal Engine, obviously Arnold, and other softwares, Houdini, things like that, to get the job done. At this point, to work completely remote with all artists around the world, these programs were pretty solid for us across the board. And just so you know, I mean, this is kind of a quick snapshot of us. You've had, just for a short film, roughly 12 animators, 10 modelers, a couple riggers, texture artists. This is kind of the overall, and I'm 8 million hairs. Is that right, Peter? Maybe more?
Overall, it's more. Maybe per the shot with all puppies together. I think it was 8 million.
So again, we made this little short film during a pandemic in 4 different countries, with over 70 plus artists around the world. It was pretty amazing, and it came together for us nicely. Kind of to one of the components I don't want to forget, and I added this in here, is the music. We constantly think about our creative and our technical process, but at the end of the day, the music's a big component to telling a story, especially when we didn't have any speaking parts in this. Matthew Wilder, who's pretty famous, he had a one-hit wonder back in the 80s called Nothing Gonna Break My Stride. I don't know if you remember that song, but he also was a composer for Mulan. He came on board with us, wrote this beautiful piece that really lifts Andy up and really touches on all the heart, beats of this film. His first comment when he saw it, the rough, he's like, man, this thing has more twists and turns than anything I've seen. I've got to really be on my game to make it work in terms of the music. And this is Matthew explaining a little bit about his part in the role.
Andy is all heart. What makes this film so unique is that the music is the only thing that you hear. So my score had to hit every emotional twist and turn as the story progresses. That's my man.
So it was pretty amazing. In fact, I still get chills when I see this because I was there at Capitol Records in Hollywood where Matthew scored this with about 28 musicians. The pianist is actually a pretty famous guy. He plays with James Taylor and different musicians around the world. But just Matthew brought together an A-list team just to pull this off. And this is a little piece I'll share that I did while he was actually recording in the studio. Amazing.
Yes.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for what I think was a really heartwarming and informative session. Kind of got the best of both worlds here, dogs and tech. We felt something great, and hopefully you learned something great as well. I just want to say thank you to Jamie and Peter for this presentation and the whole team that was behind the short film. My name is Rob. I am a marketing manager here at Autodesk, and I'll be moderating the Q&A today. So Jamie, Peter, how are you doing?
Great. Thanks for having us, Rob. And thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. So let's jump right into questions. Reminder for everyone watching, if you have questions that come to mind as we're going through Q&A, it's not too late to drop them in the Q&A box, and we'll make our way through them. So I guess the first question, so this was a collaboration with Canine Companions. Very cool. How did it come to be?
Well, it started with a phone call from the director at Charles Schultz. They were looking for an animator to do a marketing piece for Canine Companions. So I drove up. The Schultz family is like 10 minutes from where I am in California. So I drove up and met Miss Jeannie Schultz for the first time, and she was quite a character. We sat down and talked about what she was wanting to do. She basically wanted to do a marketing piece, and she said maybe something that's animated with a puppy that's 2 minutes long. And I said, well, is that a commercial, or are you looking for a story? She goes, well, I'd like to tell a story in that. I said, like Pig on the Hill, which Peter and I had done a short film called The Pig on the Hill that won a lot of awards and was really well received about 3 years ago. And she goes, I don't know what Pig on the Hill is. And I go, oh, I thought that's why you called me. And so I just opened up my laptop and I said, here, take a look. This is a Pig on the Hill. And she immediately walked over. She goes, listen, I don't have a big attention span. So if I drift off, don't take it personally. And I loved her right from the beginning when she said that. So she sat and watched Pig on the Hill. It's a 5-minute short, and she stayed the whole time. She didn't move. In fact, and then she walked across the table. She sat down. She goes, let's make that. And I go, so let's make a story. Let's make a short film. She goes, yes, let's make a story about a puppy. And I want it to be high quality and help, get exposure for Canine Companions. So I looked at her, I go, listen, if I can't help make a story about a puppy, that's animated, it's not well received, I shouldn't be in this business, because everybody loves dogs and puppies. And so I went back, broke down a treatment, and it was basically a story about a puppy that has to overcome obstacles to find his purpose in life. That was pretty much my through line from the beginning. Worked with a writer, John Kelly, out of London, and he started writing more detailed treatments, and we took off from there, did a story reel, and here we are today.
It's a really great story. Awesome. So next question I have, a lot of people are asking, how long did it take to do everything? So from production and character design, final video render, how long did it take to do this from start to finish?
Peter, you want me? I'll start and then I'll let you jump in. So the development phase of designing characters, doing the story reel, and starting to begin models was probably 8 months, roughly. So that was pretty much the pre-production development phase. And the other thing is too, is, you know, you really don't know if you have a story until you have a story reel. We had a couple of scripts written that we went through. One was, and I had spoken about this earlier, was narrated. So that's kind of a crutch, right? You'd use a crutch to kind of narrate through. But as we developed the story, Paul Cohen, who's a phenomenal storyboard artist, he and I went back and forth together for about 3 or 4 months, and he was just awesome. It kept, you know, giving options on how to stage the story. And so we went through that probably longer than we should have, but at the end of the day, that was the blueprint for everything else. So once we had that locked, I wasn't going to change it, maybe finesse it here and there. But at the end of the day, we knew we had a story that had heart and it hit all the emotional beats that we needed. Also during that process, we did a lot of I shared with the color script of the film that also pretty much hits all the emotional beats of the film as well. So once we had all that put together, the first 8 months, then we took off into full production, that's when the armies started building, right, Peter?
Yes, it took like twice time that was spent on the pre-production, and the team was not huge. We could do it even faster, but we were very dedicated to match the storytelling and all these storyboards to make everything looks perfect in a way how the Jamie wanted. And it was really great when you have someone who finish all creative work before you start to do the production. Most of people likes to change everything through the production because they are not sure that their story is good, or they're missing something, go back and forth. But in our case, it was when you watch the storyboard and the story, you knew exactly what will happen at the end. It would be just the moving pictures comparing to the still images. So that was really great and helped us to work without pressure and more think about the creative things, more about the details not going, and searching the solutions when we are doing the movie. It's always better to have the good piece of script and the story before you start to making it.
Yeah, and can I segue into that moment too, Rob? That brings in the real performance by the animators, and I kind of jumped over that in the talk, but I want to really thank the talented animators that came on board. We had roughly 12 animators, and they ranged from, you know, experts at Disney to green right out of school. And I personally interviewed everyone, and I used the same pitch every time. I'm not looking for an animator, I'm looking for a storyteller, because at the end of the day, we're telling the big story. I need you to get into each shot and really bring these puppies to life, bring these dogs to life, and give them personality, give them thought process, give them the heart that's going to bring all the audiences into, you know, to feel the heart in this film. And in December, when I was, so put it in context, pandemic hit in March, April, and Jeannie had we really got going in June. And when I brought on animators, I was interviewing them in November, December. We had the story reel, and some of the animators, and they may be here today. I don't know if you're listening, but you know who you are. Literally, I'd watch you. We'd watch them, and they would start crying. They're watching this 2D drawing by Paul Cohen, and they're literally starting to tear up. And I'm going, that's who I want. I want you, because you get it, and you're going to bring that. We now need to take it to another level. So the animators that we had, they're all remote, all around the world. Phenomenal team. We met every Tuesday and Thursday, went over shots, and they just knocked it out of the park. Knocked it out of the park in terms of showing real character mainly Andy. And Andy was the focus of this film. So I can't thank them enough, and just loved working with them.
Great. Well, I think all of you made an amazing team, because we definitely felt that story when watching that film. Another question that came in, Jamie and Peter, you guys worked very closely together, but you're an ocean apart. What was it like working together again after Pig on the Hill?
For me, very comfortable. I think, when you work remotely, there are periods of silence that you're not communicating, but for the most part, we had somewhat of structure. We knew our naming conventions, we knew our filing system, we knew all the technical stuff, and it just was easy because I 100% trust Peter and Milovan and the team, and I hope they 100% trust me, because you just kind of you have to give it to them. They already hit a home run with Pig on the Hill, and I wasn't that worried about it. So, Peter.
Yes, the truth is that we collaborating almost one decade from till now. So everything we went through already in our history. So all the tools now are just helping us to do it better. The internet was not so fast in that time. The collaboration software was not so developed. So these days, well, maybe even because Corona, but I don't want to give the credits to Corona for that. It's that we find out to work or from remotely better than ever before.
Yeah.
So that was a big, let's say, improvement through our history of collaboration. That these days, even these Zoom talks and this conference and what we are doing now were not the standard few years ago. So we are all at home, cozy and happy to not be to feel comfortable. I don't have to travel. Let's go like green, like talking about the green agenda, not to travel all around the world, spending some gas or burst something to be to attend to something like this. So
yeah, I think
the whole world is united now. The whole world can work together now. That's right.
Yeah, it's easy. It's easy from a technical standpoint, but it's at the end of the day, for me, it's all about trust, and it's about trusting that they're going to push to get the highest quality, and it's a given.
We met a few times in California, so yeah.
We did.
It's not possible to feel all the emotions through the digital world. You have to meet someone to really feel his personality.
And also, Peter, I taught Peter baseball, American baseball, when he was here.
Yeah, I watched his son, I think, was playing. We attend to the game.
Anyway.
That's awesome. The two of you make a really great dynamic duo. So we have time for one more question. We have a comment that came in that said, "Congrats on the film. Will this be released online soon, or is it still in festivals right now?" So I guess, Jamie and Peter, where are you thinking of taking Andy next?
Well, right now we are submitting to festivals. We're in half a dozen already. It'll be starting. You'll start to see that. Probably we won't let it be public till June of 2023. I know it sounds like a long time, but there's a lot of still marketing that's going to happen, not only for film festivals, and they like to keep it private, but also Jeannie Schultz and Canine Companion, they're going to use it as well. Our goal is to, the audiences are going to speak. I'd love to hear I would love to talk to the audience, find out what you all thought in terms of story and character and everything, because you're going to tell us if it's good. at the end of the day, we want to, you know, elaborate on this, maybe we're talking to streaming services on how we could put stories together with Olivia and Andy and their life together. If you notice in the credits, it was all about their future together and how they navigate, you know, on a day-to-day. So that's our goal. We'll be hopefully doing that in the future. John Kelly's already writing some concepts. I'll be speaking with Jeannie Schultz and possibly some streaming services to distribute in the future.
That's great. Well, we'll be keeping an eye out for the future of Olivia and Andy next year and the years to come. So unfortunately, we're at time already. Thank you so much, Jamie and Peter, for taking time to show us all the cool work you did on this short film. It was a real pleasure getting to see some behind the scenes magic on how you brought Andy to life. And thank you to the audience as well for the questions and being engaged. So thanks, Jamie. Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Rob.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.